What began as vandalism at a historic cemetery quickly escalated into one of the most disturbing criminal investigations in modern Pennsylvania history. More than 100 human remains, hundreds of criminal charges, and a quiet residential home hiding a scene investigators described as something out of a nightmare. Welcome to True Crime, the Real Story. Today, we examine the case of a man accused of stealing the dead and what police uncovered once they followed the trail. This week, authorities in Pennsylvania uncovered one of the most disturbing crime scenes in recent memory, a case that has shocked law enforcement, devastated families, and raised serious questions about how vulnerable historic burial grounds really are. Police say 34-year-old Jonathan Gerlach of Ephrata, Pennsylvania, is at the center of a massive grave robbery investigation after more than 100 sets of human remains were discovered inside his home and a nearby storage unit. What initially appeared to be isolated vandalism soon revealed a much larger and far darker operation. The investigation began in late 2025 when officials in Delaware County received repeated reports of break-ins at Mount Moriah Cemetery in Yeadon, Pennsylvania. Mount Moriah is one of the region's oldest cemeteries, established in the mid-19th century and containing tens of thousands of graves, including infants, veterans, and historically significant burials. Caretakers and volunteers noticed sealed mausoleums forced open. Underground burial vaults were pried apart. Coffins were disturbed. In total, police documented at least 26 separate incidents of desecration. Investigators quickly realized this was not random vandalism. The same methods were used repeatedly. The same sections of the cemetery were targeted, and the timing suggested someone returning again and again. Using surveillance footage, license plate tracking, mobile phone data, and a tip from a concerned citizen, detectives identified Jonathan Gerlach as a suspect. On January 6, 2026, officers observed Gerlach leaving Mount Moriah Cemetery carrying a crowbar and a burlap bag. When police approached his vehicle, they reported seeing bones and skulls in plain view. Gerlach was taken into custody immediately. What followed would only deepen the horror. Search warrants were executed at Gerlach's residence in Ephrata and at a storage unit he rented nearby. Inside, investigators discovered more than 100 sets of human remains. According to court documents, the remains included skulls, long bones, mummified body parts, infant remains, ashes, and decomposing torsos. Some were stored in bins and boxes. Others were arranged on shelves. In several rooms, bones were found hanging from the ceiling. Grave goods were also recovered, including jewelry taken from burial sites. In at least one instance, investigators found a medical device still attached to skeletal tissue. Cadaver dogs confirmed the presence of human remains throughout both locations. Authorities described the conditions inside the home as unsanitary and hazardous. Insects were present due to decomposing material, and several remains were in advanced stages of decay. Investigators were required to wear protective gear while processing the scene. Officials later confirmed the property required specialized biohazard cleanup. During questioning, Gerlach allegedly admitted to stealing at least 30 sets of remains and led police to multiple graves he had looted. Investigators believe the total number may be significantly higher, based on what was recovered. Prosecutors have now filed nearly 500 criminal charges against Gerlach. These include abuse of a corpse, burglary, theft by unlawful taking, receiving stolen property, criminal mischief, trespassing, and desecration of historic burial sites. Each set of remains is being treated as a separate offense, which explains the unprecedented scope of the charges. Gerlach is currently being held on $1 million bail and remains incarcerated as he awaits a preliminary hearing. Prosecutors have stated that additional charges remain possible as forensic analysis continues. Another disturbing layer of this case involves Gerlach's online activity. Search warrants show investigators uncovered evidence linking him to online groups centered around skeleton collecting and the buying and selling of human bones. Authorities are now investigating whether any remains were sold or distributed. While laws vary regarding legally obtained remains, police stress that remains taken from graves are illegal under all circumstances. Forensic teams are now working to identify the recovered remains. Some date back more than 2 centuries, making identification extremely difficult. Others may be more recent, raising the possibility that living family members could be notified. Families connected to Mount Moriah Cemetery have expressed outrage and grief, calling the desecration a profound violation. Preservation groups and community leaders are now calling for increased funding, surveillance, and security at historic cemeteries across the country. Investigators emphasize this case is still active. Digital evidence continues to be analyzed. Authorities are examining whether Gerlach acted alone or had assistance. At this time, no additional arrests have been announced. This case is not only about one suspect, it exposes vulnerabilities in how society protects burial grounds and honors the dead. For families waiting for answers, the investigation is far from over. Cases like this remind us that the most disturbing crimes are not always hidden in remote places. Sometimes they exist quietly, unnoticed, until the truth is finally uncovered. This is True Crime, the real story.